So you see the title of the video, Why You Should Probably Get a Wife in Asia or Eastern Europe. I might be wondering, why do I think this way? It's a valid question to ask. And let me go ahead and break it down in simple terms, give you the TLDR first so you can just kind of have something you're going to run with. The reason why you should probably get a wife that's from Asia or Eastern Europe is simply due to the fact that feminism isn't necessarily widespread there. Now, of course, there are exceptions. For instance, the city is going to have a higher concentration of feminists than the countryside, but largely speaking, you'll be able to find a woman who is more so traditional than you would normally find. Why is this important? Well, assuming that you're on this channel, you're a more conservative guy, maybe even reactionary, and you want to go ahead and find your special someone to create a family with, presumably. I mean, if you just wanted to pump and dump women, I don't think that you should be on this channel, to be completely honest with you. And so you decide, okay, I'm going to try my best and do whatever it takes to make that happen. And that's a good mindset. You have to be willing to do whatever it takes in order to make your dreams reality. So, when you go to Asia or Eastern Europe, these countries cultivate more of a traditional atmosphere. Now, of course, they have their own kinks, not sexually, of course, but kinks in the terms of idiosyncrasies with their society, and definitely some issues with materialism. However, if you find the right girl from the right family, you should be able to have a good time with it and pretty much circumvent all those issues. Now, why do I say that? Well, think what you would normally assume when you hear like Eastern Europe or Asia. Like, you're probably thinking something along the lines of sex tourism, and certainly there is a market for that, but there's also a market for girls that want to be taken care of, that want to be, treated like a woman, that wants to enjoy femininity and all the things that come with it, or at the very least, women that are more open to the idea. So when you go to these countries, it's kind of like a supply and demand type deal. You're offering them a type of lifestyle that they really want, i.e. a masculine guy who's going to be able to protect them, to provide for the family, and to love them and care for them like a man should. And they offer you what is demonized here in the West, which is femininity. Actual femininity, not the bullshit that we get, which is essentially second-rate masculinity in women. So you go over there. Let's just go ahead and say you take this at face value. And you say, well, that makes sense. I have to go where, the wind blows, and I have to do what's going to bring me closer to my goal. But what are some things I should look out for? And the first answer to that is, how poor are they? Like, how desperate are they for money? It should be a red flag if you go ahead and see a woman that's continually asking for you to support her or support her family. Of course, there are going to be good women in bad situations, such as extreme poverty. But that being said, a lot of the times people in those countries use it as an excuse to try to get you to pay a lot of money for them, to try to get you to pay a lot of money for their family, to try to get you to kind of fork over your wallet. And sometimes they do this without offering anything in return. For instance, in those countries, a lot of the times Christianity is the mainstream, as it should be. And these women are taught not to go out and give up their virginity until they get married. So they'll very easily and conveniently make the excuse that they can't do anything with you because you need to wait to get married. But they're more than happy with living and off of your income. If you ever get into these types of situations where you feel that instead of it being viewed as a relationship, it's viewed as more of a transaction of material goods, I would definitely say that's a red flag. I would say that, generally speaking, if you are going to those countries, you need to ensure that you get a woman from a good family, that either has money or has the class enough not to ask you for it. Additionally, I would say that another red flag going there is a woman that already has a kid, or a woman that has a high body count. So there's going to be a lot of single mothers that will see a foreigner in those lands and be like, oh, this is my golden ticket out of there. That's the type of woman you want to avoid. Why? Quite simple. They will eventually act exactly like a woman in the West would. There's really no point. You should just stay where you were at, assuming that you're from the West like I am. There's really no point, basically. You're basically stalling for time. You're stalling the inevitable. She's already pair bonded with somebody else. She's already had the kid of somebody else. Why are you even going to put up with that? Like, you can get a better woman. Concretely, assuming that you're actually a decent man that's going to this country, you can get a very great woman. Another red flag that I would say are male family members that they claim are close to them because, oh, it's just in their culture, but are they really family members? That's something you have to ask yourself. Are they really who they claim that they are? Are the relationships that they claim to have actually genuine? These are very real concerns that you need to ask yourself, because there's always a famous excuse of, oh, well, he's like a cousin, or he's an uncle, when in reality, that's her boyfriend and you're a sucker. You have to be very perceptive. I would say that if you're going to these countries to find a wife, it is the right thing to do. However, you have to be realistic. Are you the type of guy who would be desired by women? And before you go out and be like, oh, hypergamy, oh my gosh, women, materialistic. I mean, think about it like this. Would you marry a grotesquely overweight woman that spouts tons of feminist talking points all day, maybe as a kid or two? Of course you wouldn't, right? Because women have certain things to offer. Right, you're presumably looking for a beautiful, loyal woman that's going to be a good mother for your kids. And you're probably looking for a more traditional type of arrangement. Well, what do you think comes with that? Do you think that you can just ask for that and not offer anything in return? Of course, you need to at least have some earning potential. I'm not talking rich, but enough to go to make them feel safe, or at least the potential to do so. Maybe you're a university student, or maybe you're on your way up in some type of corporate job. You need to know people. You cannot be a complete autist. Don't get me wrong, we love our autists around here, but it's something that's not going to really do you any favors, especially if you're kind of lacking in the first department. You need to be able to get women, to be able to handle women that are actually feminine. Because believe it or not, women that are feminine don't really like losers. I know, shocking. Women that want to build something steady and stable don't really like a guy who's unstable. I know, it's a surprise, but it's the truth. So you have to go to make sure that you have your shit together before you go there. Now, of course, there's going to be women that just because presumably you're white, they're going to want to hop on your dick, especially if you go to Asia. But that's not always the case. And if that happens, right, it's probably a bigger sign that there's something wrong there than a green flag. Just think about it like this. Imagine you go back in time. It's like the 1800s or maybe the early 1900s in America, and you're trying to get a wife. Imagine the quality of wife you can realistically get. Now, translate that to Asia, or translate that to Eastern Europe. That's what you should be expecting. If you cannot pull a great woman, even back then, if you were to be in those times when women were more feminine and embraced more traditional roles, if you couldn't pull a good woman then, you're probably not going to be able to pull a good woman there. And if you do, and you don't offer anything to her, just because, let's just say you have a stellar personality, well, you should probably make things happen. The whole point of being a man is to kind of be inspired in those types of situations to better yourself, for your family, for your surroundings, etc. But I wouldn't rely on that. You should go there knowing what you want, knowing your sense of self, etc. So going to Asia, or going to Eastern Europe, let's just go ahead and say again, you're convinced, well, how do you do this? Well, there's certain countries that are visa-free. Now, you might be wondering, what's that? Do I need to get a visa on arrival? Sometimes, yes, but oftentimes, no. So, let's just say you go to the Philippines. That is visa-free. Let's just say you go to parts of the Balkans. That's a visa-free. So you'll be able to essentially get on a plane, get there, and either get a visa immediately on arrival, or just simply be like, hey, I'm an American, presumably, or from some type of Western European country, and I am looking for a woman. Of course you don't say that to them, but, I'm looking to visit the country, blah, 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 blah. They'll screen you like some bullshit, screening, and you'll be let in. And then you're free pretty much to do whatever you want for the duration of the visa, and oftentimes they have extensions for, say that you do meet somebody and you want to stay there for longer, feel free. I would also say that you should have the ability to not take any shit, right? Presumably, if you're on this channel, you probably have already gotten to that point. You're probably at least somewhat experienced with women. You've probably had some relationships, and you're kind of just looking for the most effective way to get what you want. In which case, great. But if you're not one of those people, before you go to these countries, don't come in like a wounded doe or like a jackass, essentially, thinking that, oh, these women, are just going to walk you through it. No. Kind of eat shit to get the gravy, if you catch my drift. You need to go ahead and actually have some experience and know what you're doing before you go to a country risking essentially everything for somebody that might know more than you and take advantage of your naivete. So if you're able to handle Western women well and you just find them completely degenerate and undesirable, then you're pretty much set to go. But if you're not at that stage yet, why not just try dating a little bit around here? Why not just try, getting some experience, making sure to, like, not be stupid, preferably don't have sex with them, and if you, for some reason, cannot control your lust, Jesus Christ, guys, control your lust. If you can't control that, wrap it up. And get some experience knowing how girls work, knowing the general trends. Don't get blackpilled. Just understand that, the impact of the society. Get some experience, then go over there. I'd recommend, for instance, if you have a friend that's a bit more experienced and he's willing to wingman you, maybe that's something that you could go ahead and take him up on. There, you can go ahead and find out more about the culture. Maybe you're not willing to take the dive, but maybe you want to go ahead and meet some girls from there. Maybe you learn, for instance, Serbian or Ukrainian or Tagalog or Indonesian, and you use an app to go ahead and talk to people of that language. All of a sudden, you have an access to the culture without even needing to go there. And, of course, you shouldn't just right away rush. Let's just say you've never dated before. You should not just randomly start talking to a girl and start chatting her up. You need to at least know how they work. You need to at least understand vaguely how to talk to girls. You have to be reasonable in and how you view people and what you're trying to achieve. Generally speaking, going to these countries doesn't necessarily guarantee you the ideal relationship, by a long shot. But it heavily elevates your chances, considering the fact that the society there is not at that level that's in the West yet. Now, what you'll probably see there are the seeds of it being planted, and that's a sad thing, because what I designate as a quote-unquote meta being like a term for the most effective, the most useful, is going to be changing, of course, generation by generation. Perhaps next generation, it's not Asia and Eastern Europe, maybe it's the Middle East. Or perhaps it goes back to Western Europe, maybe there's some type of economic collapse. Or maybe it goes to Latin America, who knows? At this point, we're pretty much just shooting where we can shoot, and that's going to be the most effective way. Now, you might then ask, well, let's just go ahead and say that you're a race realist, and you're like, but my race, let's just say you're a proud Western European. I'm that too. I'm Spanish and German. I do not blame you for having some holdups on, for instance, going to Eastern Europe and going to Asia when, your family essentially had roots in this land. But think about the alternative. Your alternative is essentially to, A, try to find that diamond in the rough, try to find that person, and pray to God she doesn't fall victim to the brainwashing here. Option B is that you play Captain Save-A-Ho and pray that it doesn't blow back on your face. And essentially you're playing a consistent game of dominance against the entire social strata. Or option C is just accept your place, accept that you're fucked, and there's nothing really that you can do about it. For me, yes, I'm proud of my heritage, 110%. I love being Spanish. I love being German. I'm very proud of that. But I have to be realistic. Am I willing to destroy my life or make my life extremely unpleasant to go ahead and stick in my race? The answer is no. I don't want that for me. I don't want that for my kids. I want stability. I want to be able to look at my wife and know that 10 years down the line, we're going to be happy, we're going to be together, and we're going to be growing together. And that's why, you gotta look at it from more of that perspective, from a universal perspective. Chances are, this will, in 2 generations, the West will go back to being marriage material. So, with the change in social dynamics and eventual economic realities, of course, that'll change the whole fabric, and women will eventually become more traditional. In those generations, your kids can come back, and I guarantee you, they will be able to find a partner that's probably of your racial makeup. But right now, you kind of got to play it rationally. You have to play it, realistically. And the realistic way to play it is by, going to these countries. Now, let's just go ahead and say that you're just looking for sex. You're just looking to, get your willy wet. Don't listen to this. Don't take any of this to go over there and abuse actual good women. You have that over in the West. Just feel free to fuck their brains out. They don't care. They like it. Don't ruin what's there for good guys. Don't try to go ahead and jade people against the West because oh my God, I can't get girls in the West, but in the East, there's a bunch of low quality women that want to suck my dick. Don't do that. It's horrendous. You make us look bad. You make us look like bitches. You make us look horrible to the people that are actually serious. And we just don't want you. I don't want you on this channel, quite frankly. Just leave. Feel free to dislike the video, too, because we don't like you. I'm trying to reach specific people here. I'm trying to reach the men that actually want